Nexomon Extinction. Let's just address the big fluffy pink Pokemon elephant in the room. For all intents and purposes, this is old school Pokemon given a graphical upgrade. They've kept the core gameplay and a fresh lick of monsters to fight and capture. If you've grown up with Pokemon Red, Blue and Yellow and any other twinkly colour they brought out later, as you can see I don't really keep up with them, then Nexomon gives you a dollop of that generational Pokemon goodness, just with its own flavour of the genre. But Nexomon isn't just fan service. It earns its place as its own entity as a solid game in itself. This is being the second of the own series, Nexomon being the first and this being Nexomon Extinction. Extinction is the first to be brought to console and fill the huge gap and monopoly Pokemon has exclusively for Nintendo. And finally we have something that is fun, playable and potentially has got a lot going for it, that it could be as good and maybe even better than its endearing big brother Pokemon. Some quick facts is that I started this on the PS4, moved on to the PS5 and finished it on the 26th of the 12th, 2020. It's single player only. It has 57 trophies with 1 platinum, 2 gold, 4 silver and 50 bronze. It has a file size of 4.15 gigabytes at this point in time, and the game length, it took me just over 50 hours, but anyone doing it properly most probably 45 and at worst maybe 70, depending on the RNG little moments of finding those monsters. I give this a medium platinum of 2 because of the sheer length of the game and because there's some RNG and I had 2 glitch trophies to deal with, but if they didn't break the game it was just a little niggly pain. Gameplay and controls. So from the off I have to get used to the start of gameplay, and it felt a tiny bit sluggish with turning and facing things to interact, but this is more about me acclimatising to the game, as after a while it was less an issue, but there is a subtle undertone that it could be more smoother with the controller. X is the action button for interaction with NPCs. Naturally it's turn-based combat between monsters, and the only other buttons were the capture L1 and R1, which made you have a menu come up so you can pick a Nexo trap or you can feed them to try and encourage them to be caught easier. And on Nexo traps there's your normal Nexo trap and then there's your fire, your ghost for the different elements, and that's how they kind of interplay with something a bit different to Pokemon. Also, these are pyramid traps, not balls, so again there's their slight little tweak that they try to interplay with this. Also, another way they try to get around the whole capturing monsters similarity is that when you do actually throw your Nexo trap at them and then you do catch them, you get a mini button game where you have to match the buttons that correlate with the screen, and then basically if you do that within the first 5 seconds then you get met with another did you or didn't you kind of capture screen, and you either get a flash of white and you did, or it goes flashing red and you're still faced with the monster at hand. Fighting is simple. Each Nexomon has 4 attacks, and as they level up they gain new ones which can replace some of the old ones, but you can only have 4 at a time, and each attack takes stamina. So the more attacks you use, the stamina goes down, so you have to be wary of what attacks you're using, as you will become tired. The game also levels up dependent on the story, so you will have an area that's everybody level 10. When you beat a specific boss, everyone may jump up to level 25, and that's including Nexomon in the wild, tamers and so forth, until you beat a next boss and everyone levels up again. The trouble is though, with fighting turn-based, I often found myself using the same attacks over and over, and rarely had a decent chess-like battle where the ailments were significant to give me a kind of smart plan and to change up my team. It's annoying when there is a decent amount of ailments to use or deal with, from the usual burning and freezing, but then they also added frail, demotivation and bound, where for instance bound, your monster is actually locked in place and you can't swap him until he dies or you win your fight whilst he's taking damage, and you'll have that affliction for up to 5 turns maybe, depending on who you've just fought and who's put it on you. The odd boss is where the combat and the back and forth works best, especially what I've mentioned. which is a shame, as the rest of the game, as with capturing Nexomon, is too easy, and tamers you can just overpower and overwhelm, often because they only have 4 or 5 Nexomon to your full roster of 6 that you can carry. A big oversight that will loom very large within the first few hours of playing for this is that there is no in-game map, and it's really awkwardly frustrating. It because the way that the design of the game is, if you go up, you go to a new section, and think of everything as like squares. So if you go down, that's a different square. If you go left or right, it's all a whole new map. So everything gets very disorientating at first. By the end game, you'll know everything off by heart nearly. But whilst you're just starting out, everything can get really overwhelming, and it can be a bit off-putting. The only actual kind of map you do get is when you've activated fast travel about quarter of the way through the game. You kind of get an overlay of areas, but it doesn't actually help you for finding or identifying individual things that you may need to go and find. To make things interesting and break up the monotony of just fighting monster after monster, is they've thrown in elements with your standard earth, water and fire, and they also have got a ghost, wind and psychic. It all works, but the balance is quite varying, as I found water and lightning and grass, Nexomon, probably had more advantage over the rest of them in multiple categories than, say, if you threw out fire, who would only have an advantage over maybe 1, maybe 2, whilst grass seemed to be able to comfortably fight lightning, water and earth. So that's something to be bearing in mind, and it kind of makes the shine off of certain Nexomon and how useful they are, and you tend to then start being moved towards a certain setup once you twig onto that, which is a shame. Also, most of the Nexomon are superficial. Most of individual categories all have similar attacks, and mostly I just ended up spamming 1 or 2 of my own attacks each time. Because there was no real strategy. I could just overpower and beat everyone, which was annoying. So it was more that it was a vanity project that I would keep certain Nexomon or I changed them because they just looked better than some of the others. Just because I have to put up with it and play with it and what I have to look at, which was a bit of a shame. The biggest annoyance, and it begins to be a real issue later on in the game, is how unhelpful the menus are. They aren't simple and clearly tabbed, so finding what you want isn't straightforward. For example, there is 381 Nexomon needed to catch, yet having to scroll slowly down to see who I have and haven't got becomes a ball ache, simple as that. And it breaks down to simpler categories, and even then they're just not sufficient enough, and I felt like after a few of them it started trying to throw all the other elements in, and it just got a bit messy. So I only kept with the initial list of 381, but scrolling down was just so painful. It's really broken, and they really need to have addressed that and fix that for maybe hopefully a patch or in their next games, because it's just really irritating. Also, you can't really like select missions and have them tabbed onto your screen, so I kept on having to go into the menu, look for it, because it's actually within a menu of a menu, and then having to scroll across. Then you get to see what missions that you need to do, but you couldn't have a tab on the screen to kind of keep you on the path so you knew what you were doing. It was very easy just to get sidetracked and end up not knowing what you were doing, or just getting lost, which was a bit of an issue. But mostly for this game, I do suggest just play through the story and get to the end. It's much more simpler, and then just clear everything up. Also, Nexomon doesn't like to explain things very well at times, so at the beginning it becomes a very jarring experience, as you kind of don't know really what to do, or if you're doing it the right way, or if you're going to miss something, or you kind of just stumble across things, I felt, and it just wanted you to get on with it and just drip feed you little bits and then hope you pieced it together, which was a bit of an oversight by them, I feel. So with that all in mind, I felt that Nexomon scored a 1.5, and it suited it best. What it does very well but then there's some areas that they really overlooked and they need to work on. But it doesn't actually ruin the overall game, it's just minor niggles. Music and sound effects. The music in this game is good. Each area has a nice tune representing it, and the more sinister moments have a group moody tone to set the story up well and just give you that sense of foreboding. Nothing I felt was annoying, but then again there was no tunes that really were catchy and like got stuck in your head. It just done its job, which is okay. But the problem was the sound effects. I hated the noise of the text bubbles very quickly, and throughout the game, because none of the characters actually talk, it's all gestured by sound effects and text bubbles, and it really began to grate on me to the point that I just skipped a lot of text because it was just irritating, which is just odd for me. It probably won't be irritating for many of you, but it did start to kind of annoy me. I don't know why. Also, there was just some weird sound effect picked, like if you go into the shop, in the background it sounds like when a fire alarm has a dead battery going down and it has that annoying little blip blip. For some reason they have that in the game and it's really annoying. You don't even know if it's your own fire alarm playing up. It's just such an odd idea to have. Also, some of the sound effects, I'm pretty sure are like just a package in general from other companies. Like here in the UK, you have Domino's Pizza. You order your pizza, and it will have this little app that will tell you where it is in the cycle of being made. And the noise it keeps throwing out, that's in this game for certain Nexomon when they're there, and it was just really off-putting and a bit weird. So sadly, a lot of the times the sound effects diminished the gameplay and what was going on. It was the subtlest things I was picking up on, weirdly, that I just didn't like. So for this game, I give it a score of 1 because it was kind of a very jarring experience of great in-game music, but the sound effects were very poor. Platinum and difficulty. The Platinum is a decent one to obtain. I enjoyed 95% of the list, but sadly there is always the ugly odd few that want to ruin your run. Firstly, the good. The majority of these trophies are from the story, so in going about your business and enjoying the game is the priority here. Nothing is missable, which is important. There's just the odd ones to keep an eye on, like feeding 100 Nexomon food, or mining 50 mineral stones, which you'll do naturally anyway. So they aren't hard at all. Now, for the first of 2 trophies that you need to really do pay attention to, that were an issue for me. You have to beat every tamer in the game, and there's a second trophy to that you have to beat them all again. They aren't hard to spot nor difficult to beat. There's only 1 or 2 that are off the beaten track. In each area, I think at worst you may have 12, and then you have maybe 4 or 5 in others, and then you have just the odd one lurking about. But sadly this one was glitchy for me, and I did think it was just me at first, but after a few reruns of fighting every tamer, I found that it actually was the game itself, as I fought everyone several times, which was no bad thing because I have to level up my next one to level 99, which again, that wasn't hard. But when you start getting paranoid if it's the game that's not going to give you the trophy, or if it's you who's just missed someone, it's not a good place to be in when you're trying to do this trophy. Thankfully, it randomly popped after I'd done a solid run of tamers, to which I definitely fought all of them before. And then it kind of just randomly popped on someone I definitely know I fought at least 7 times. Hopefully it doesn't get to that for you guys. Then when I went to beat him again, the trophy didn't pop for the second time of beating all the tamers. So then I had to rerun and go through everybody again. And I think I got through 3/4, and that trophy then popped again. And I know for a fact I beat everyone several times. It's not fun, but it is a glitch trophy, but it's not broken. So persistence is the key if you want this platinum, or you might get lucky and it just registers what it's supposed to. The other key trophy to pay attention to is there is, as I keep putting in this video, 381 Nexomon, and you have to get them all. Now there are 2 Nexomon that will catch you off guard. At the end game there is Vados, and I think his name's Solace. One of them is something you were given, and Vados, or Proto Vados, is someone you have to go find, trigger the mission, go find, capture him. They both evolve once they hit level 90, so it's something mindful to get into your party and put the XP cores into them, and then go about going for the other trophies whilst doing that. Also, a tip for this is to mostly do it all end game. There's an area called Palamaya, where literally 95% of all the Nexomon are. They all have their various little patches on the island, so a bit of persistence with RNG and you will find the Nexomon you're after. I think only a few tyrants and a few other rare monsters are variously dotted all over the other parts of the game, but I found literally everybody else here. Also, to speed it up, is because it's endgame, all the Nexomon are going to be high level, so if you get the basic Nexomon, level him up a level, he will evolve, and then if he's got a 3rd generation, you level him up one more time, he will evolve again, because they're beyond their evolve point levels. So it actually makes it quite quick if you're trying to find certain Nexomon, and then you just have that ongoing as well, so you kind of get extra Nexomon for simple work really, and that's what I did, and it made the process and the speed of things very quick. But they're the only 2 real niggly trophies that will hinder you on if you're going to get the platinum or not, and they're not that bad overall. So a 1.5 is for the platinum and difficulty. It's not a difficult game, you just literally power level if you're stuck, or just rework your team to make it suit for the fight. Failing that, the platinum also was really steady, easy going. It was just those little niggly glitch trophies that took the shine off it. So the score in itself, I think, is a good one for what you get for this game. Graphics. Graphically, there is only so much you can do with the style of game that's presented. Each area is distinct and the colours and hues stand out, and it all looks the part, and it's smooth. The characters, when its speech bubbles, stand out and it's detailed, and I did like the hand-drawn pictures that often accompany certain sections with boss fights or storytelling. Sadly, I wanted a little bit more because they were really nicely detailed and really popped out, and they just really looked good, and there just wasn't enough of it in game. But what it was really annoying was in the Nexomon fighting, I just felt it was a bit rigid and uninspiring. You kind of got the odd flash of lightning, or you get the nice soundtrack, and you get the whole kind of drama of it, but the Nexomon themselves kind of just stood there, and it's just more like a pictures and overlay of that to make it give a sense of a fight, with like icicles dropping down or a fireball, and it kind of just detracted from the sense of the fight, which was a shame because it all looks really nice, but ultimately you have Nexomon who are just kind of stood there and they kind of shake a bit, which was a bit it didn't have a little bit of personality to it, I think the best way of saying it, and it really could be something to improve and just give it a bit of sense of, you know, you're supposed to be in a big battle with these Nexomon who are supposed to be powerful, and just give it the sense of an actual fight going on. But I have to then see the other side of things, is there's 381, as I keep saying, and then having to design and animate and make all of that work would be such an effort. But ultimately, do you really need that many Nexomon in the game? Probably not. I do think they overindulged on that number, as a lot of them are forgettable. Some of them I didn't even see till the end game, so they were just irrelevant apart from just being caught. So they could have tweaked down the numbers and made them all a bit more relevant, but that's just something that can be done in future. So weirdly, for this section, I haven't really got much to compliment or give overall than all what I've already said. So I have to give this game a 1. the cartoon 2D drawings and stuff all look the part, but you just always felt like they could do more, and it was all being played a bit safe. Naturally, this will be a small team, and the level designs all look nice, but it felt like there could have been more interactions or more to do within the game that would have just linked everything, and the graphics just felt a part of that it just all felt nicely done, but never really pushed themselves to really think outside the box or just add some new ideas. Story and length. At first I was really on the fence with this game. It didn't give much away, the story was confusing on purpose to allow the mystery to unravel, and so the first few hours I was really struggling to connect with the game. As things start to happen and more is given to you to explore and work out, the story begins to take shape and I got on board with what was happening. Thankfully, your sidekick is written well with his quips and fourth wall breakdowns that gives some well needed personality that allows the back and forth with the vast cast of heroes and villains you come across. Especially as your character doesn't speak, he just gestures. There was enough twists and turns and nice aspects to contend with, as rarely did I feel like I was on a fetch quest simulator, but actually had a story to push on through that evolved and surprised, keeping me wanting to unravel what more could happen to my team. The story itself, I think I clocked in finishing around 28 to 30 hours, but a few hours were spent running around lost or finding new Nexomon to boost or replace my team. Once the story was done, more endgame missions became unlocked, which was basically finding and beating the best and powerful Nexomon in the game, which keeps things ticking over nicely. With everything done in the Platinum, I had a good 53-ish hours invested. Not too long and definitely not too short. Naturally, some of that time will be down to RNG luck, and if you get lost or if you're using a guide, just to give an idea of where you need to look for a certain Nexomon you might want. So it was a pleasant story. Side missions were a bit of a letdown, but because of the story you didn't really care for it, and there's odd people to trade with for items that aren't really missions, which were more of a benefit. So I mean, you still have to do all the side missions because of the Platinum as the trophy, but they were never really anything difficult or added to the story. So I give this a 2, as the story was just the right length. It didn't get long in the tooth, and I always felt like I was invested in going in and finding out what's actually going on and what my character's relevance to everything was, and understanding this world that was being built. So with my ramblings out in the open and the score to tally up, and I'm hoping this does leave some sort of impression on some people, even if it just one person ends up wanting to go for the Nexomon Platinum or just experience Nexomon, or just get this game a wider attention. I hope it works. I give this game a 7 after all, with all my tallying with the points I've given it, which is a decent effort for this plucky Pokemon killer upstart. With new rivals like Temtem entering the monster arena, I'm hoping Nexomon can evolve and have its own place amongst the emerging market. Pokemon should be worried. This is an accomplished game that takes on the heavy hitter and holds its own. But more importantly, PlayStation doesn't need Pokemon. This substitute fills that void, and it's a worthy replacement that should scratch the itch for fans of this genre. So overall, yes, there is a lot to still work on and give it a bit more oomph in the gameplay, but they're on the right track, and this is a great start for them, especially as I think this is the second game, and I'm looking forward to when they bring out another one. Sadly, I can't get my Platinum trophy video clip or a screenshot to work for this, so you just have to see what my last trophy was that I earned before the Platinum. Hope you liked the review, give me a like, subscribe and feedback.